Straight Talk family, whenever you hear that theme song, you know it's time for another edition of Straight Talk. And time for me to say good night to St. Kitts and Nevis, and a very pleasant night to the entire Caribbean region. To my Straight Talk family, I should say good night to the world, because we are on the World Wide Web and we capture those in the Kittitian and Nevisian diaspora, in particular those in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and a whole lot of you all over North America. So I'm at liberty to say good night. I will say good morning, and I will also say good afternoon. I know there's someone special there listening in England who sent me a message earlier and said it would be midnight their time, so it's morning over there in Europe and other places. But I want to also thank those who continue to share our link. And once you share our link, we do get first timers. And for the first timers, I want to inform you that Straight Talk is heard every Monday and Thursday from 8 to 10 in the PM. And we are a public service program, and we try to facilitate and promote free expression on all issues, underline all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On Straight Talk, you do have a forum to express yourselves freely. Let us, in the process, let us strive to get St. Kitts and Nevis back to that enviable position of being number one, if not the one of the freest countries in the entire world. On this program, we try to raise the level of national consciousness. We try to raise the level of national discourse by alerting our people to their right, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. My name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I thank Almighty God for blessing me with another opportunity to join you in conversation on yet another occasion. I always like to remind you that as your host, I pledge to remain an untiring advocate of truthfulness. As I always remind you, I always am reminded of the words of a hymn, which goes something like this: we are called to be God's prophets, speaking for the truth and right, standing firm for godly justice, bringing evil things to light. So absolutely, my Straight Talk family, nothing is watered down on this program, whether by omission or exaggeration. We don't try to make things more interesting here. We're not about sensationalism or creating excitement, especially at the expense of truth and accuracy, because I consider it my duty to always present the unvarnished, the plain truth, especially when it comes to governance in our St. Kitts and Nevis. And through this program, we are joined together with people across our federation and in the diaspora all around the world. And some we know very well, some we have met, others we do not know and may never ever meet. Some will agree with positions of the truth that are advanced here on Straight Talk, and some will obviously disagree. And that's fine. But please, it would sadden me if we start to become disagreeable. So let's just thank Almighty God for helping us to understand how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And let's just hope and pray for the day when we all will sing his praise together. Once again, welcome, my people, and thanks for those who share the link as you bring first timers. Please continue to do so. So some tell me that they don't always get the link, and I apologize for that. You can subscribe to YouTube or Facebook channels at no cost whatsoever. Thereby you'll get an alert. And to the first timers, I must also inform you that Straight Talk is a participative program. By that I mean we include your calls and your emails. And if you're so minded, call in. The numbers are 663-6672 or 646-829-6672. Or for those who like the cloak of anonymity, as I call it, we give you access via our email platform. And our email address is Straight Talk Patches. That's one word, STRAIGHTTALK, patches @gmail.com. And I want to welcome our young brigade. A special welcome to them. We must keep our youths in mind. Dwayne, Tristan, Shama, Kevin, and young Rue over there in the US. And I say a special good night to a special lady in St. Louis. We have not heard of any obituaries, but in the event they are, we extend our condolences to the loved ones. As a matter of fact, there was someone who died yesterday in the Phillips area, and we extend condolences to the family. And tonight, I will not present a thesis, because I do have a special guest in our studio tonight, our special guest on Straight Talk tonight. And our guest will be the third Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Sylvester Harris. And Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris, as I said, is the third Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, but now sits on the opposition benches in the National Assembly of St. Christopher and Nevis. And he's junior to the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas. And I'm speaking in chronological terms, in that Dr. Douglas has already served 34 years in that august body, whereas Dr. Timothy Harris has served 30 years in the said assembly, or as we say, in the same federal parliament. Now, we will discuss national issues, and of course, we will also include your calls and your emails, and in order to ensure your full participation. We will, however, first dispense of a few observations in review. Observations in review are an integral part of our program, and I know you look forward to hear them, to get an up-to-date update on what's happening. But we will limit ourselves to accommodate our guests and former, or rather our third Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris. And our observations in review is a time when we highlight the current issues and do some reflection. We may then ask a few questions such as what was accomplished, how has it helped others, what has changed since my Straight Talk family, and what can be expected next, what we knew we have learned as a people. And our first observation, if JJ can just bear with me here, our first observation relates to our 40-year-old diplomatic relationship with the Republic of China on Taiwan, my Straight Talk family. And a topic we raised some programs ago, some programs before tonight. And for the record, we never advocated that we must sever or cut our relationships with the Republic of China on Taiwan. We never did advocate that. But we must be at liberty to analyze the benefits we as an independent nation have derived after 40 years. And we must examine the possible benefits that can be derived if the event, if there's an event of switching allegiance into any other country. And our leaders try to make a case for the Republic of China on Taiwan to be included, my Straight Talk family, each time at the, to be included at the United Nations General Assembly. And this has always been raised for on so many occasions. And international fora at every opportunity, like at COP 28, it was raised and it was said that there should be an opportunity to be invited at the room. But many have reacted to having discussion about a diplomatic reset after 40 years in different ways. Some use words like ungratefulness. Some scoffed at the idea of China Harbor Engineering Company Limited in Jamaica constructing the bridge to Nevis without any capital outlay whatsoever from the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. And some say that it is like selling our independence to the People's Republic of China. But herein lies the hypocrisy of this Jew administration that says one thing and does the opposite. Because Dr. Drew has secretly dispatched an emissary, that's a big word, a messenger, so to speak, to the People's Republic of China. Dr. Drew, believe it or not, has sent a messenger to China, my straight dog family, and you would not believe, and I do not fabricate, because Dr. Drew has sent this messenger, or his messenger, Michael Martin, to sell not our independence, but our patrimony, our passports. Yes, China. Yes, he has sent this messenger, Michael Martin, to China, my straight dog family. You've sent him off because the citizenship by investment figures, the CBI figures, have dwindled under Dr. Drew, so he hurriedly dispatched the CEO of the citizenship by investment unit. He dispatched him hurriedly off to China to try to correct that situation with our passports, or the revenue being derived from the non-tax revenue from the citizenship by investment program. But think about it, my straight dog family. Think about it carefully. The sale of our passports to these Chinese conveys, my straight dog family, the sale of these passports conveys the rights related to property, assets, and financial interests. But some are happy that these Chinese become citizens and set up supermarkets and food shops or restaurants in every village, almost every constituency around the St. Kitts and Nevis. And they have driven our mom and pop shops into extinction. Our mom and pop shops have virtually disappeared. So which you prefer is a question I'll ask, and we can respond to that on our next program. Which do you prefer? Infrastructure investment like an airport terminal and a seaport as is being constructed in Antigua and Barbuda? Bypass roads in Dominica and Jamaica? Or the sale of our patrimony? The choice should not be difficult, but we will discuss these questions in a subsequent program. Tonight is for our third Prime Minister. Our second observation, quickly, my straight dog family, I want to make the point and to remind us what is happening under Dr. Terence Drew. Under Dr. Drew, it has signaled the return of what we can describe as heinous crime that was a thing of the past. Heinous crime like murder. Under a team unity administration that was led by our special guest tonight, our third Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, crime seemed to have become a thing of the past. We move crime downwards, the murders downwards to 10 murders from a high of 36 under Labour. And Carla Berridge of the ZIZ reported this, my straight dog family, the 29th murder the 29th murder for 2023 under Dr. Joe.
The police are investigating the death of 42-year-old Charleston Inc. Harvey of Phillips Village. The Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force issued a statement stating that the incident occurred on December 10th in Phillips Village. An individual is currently being held by police to assist with the investigation. Harvey was pronounced dead at the scene after being examined by the district medical officer.
And my Straight Talk family, sadly, this is the 37th murder under Dr. Terence Michael Drew since taking office and assuming the role of Minister of National Security 16 months ago on the 6th of August 2022. And we find no comfort in providing that information, but we have to provide the truth. 37 murders under Dr. Terence Michael Drew since taking office just 16 months ago. And our third and final observation, my Straight Talk family, for tonight, highlights the comments of what appears to be an overzealous prosecutor who has preempted instituting legal proceedings against special persons for criminal behavior with the intention to support the excessive enthusiasm, my Straight Talk family I call it, of an Attorney General Garth Lucian Wilkin in what is deemed an anti-corruption cause. But can this be genuine when it comes from someone like Attorney General Garth Lucian Wilkin, who an High Court judge opined that he committed a criminal offense? My Straight Talk family, listen to this new Director of Public Prosecutions, Adlai Smith. To me, he comes across like a director of public prosecution and not a director of public prosecution when I heard him say this to the nation, my Straight Talk family.
Your DPP stands ready. As soon as you hand over those names, I've already drafted the charges. I've already drafted it. It's just a matter of putting in your name and signing it and the different dates and so on, and a charge is laid. I've already laid down the gauntlet. It's either you do what you're required to do, or you suffer the inconvenience of having to pay lawyer, inconvenience of going to court, etc. The choice is yours.
And that sounds to me like an overzealous DPP, not a director of public prosecution, but a director of public prosecution. And my Straight Talk family, we will discuss those issues in a subsequent program. And I want to also suggest that our final episodes for this year 2023 on Straight Talk would be Monday 18th and Thursday 21st December 2023, which means we will take a break this coming Thursday. I will come back next week, Monday and Thursday, for our final two programs. But these are our observations in review for tonight. As it's time, my Straight Talk family, to welcome my special guest, who is no stranger to Straight Talk, our third Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Sylvester Harris. And I must say, my Straight Talk family, good night to our special guest. Good night, sir, and welcome back to Straight Talk, because you are no stranger to Straight Talk. So I want to welcome you back to Straight Talk. Don't know why you stay away so long, but perhaps your value goes up. You're in higher demand. What's that? What's this all about? But good night nonetheless, and good to see you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, my brother Patrick Liebert. I want to say it's always been a pleasure and privilege to be on your Straight Talk program. Clearly, I take your last comments as an invitation to be more regular, and I promise at least once per month I will be with you on the program if you find it convenient. allow me to.
I'm appealing on behalf of the people, the Straight Talk family. They always say, "Where's the Prime Minister?" Right? And why is not
Yes.
Prime Minister not coming? I mean, it's 30
Yes.
years. You have celebrated 30 years. That's a long time, you know. And after 30 years, you seem as if you have quite a lot left to do. But welcome again, and it's your time.
Thank you. I also want to extend greetings to all who are tuning, paying attention to your program, those at home and those abroad, all the well wishers. This being a period over which I have been commemorating, celebrating my 30th anniversary as an MP, allow me to give a special hail up to the good people of St. Christopher 7 from Bellevue Village to Utleys, who over the last 30 years stood faithfully by and with me general elections. And each time, regardless of my political affiliation, they gave me full support. So I owe them a lifelong debt of gratitude for the opportunity, by the grace of God, they have given to me to serve them and by extension, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I thank them for reposing their trust in me over this long period of time. In fact, I'm the longest serving member of parliament for number 7. And as you rightly said, I am the second most senior in terms of service in the federal parliament. But equally too, I'm also the longest serving minister in the federal administration. And in this regard, I surpass Dr. Denzel Douglas in terms of years of service as a minister of government. So I have a lot to be thankful for. The experience garnered over a generation certainly has placed me in good stead to give the best of service yet to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I remain committed to do so. How could I not be committed when so much is happening, so much has gone awry in the state of St. Kitts and Nevis? And there are times when I reflect, particularly on our last 7+ years in government, and the marvelous list of accomplishments on behalf of the people, and consider where we are now with our country at the crossroads. In fact, I was saying that to someone, and they said, no, St. Kitts and Nevis is not at the crossroads. We are at a dead end. And when we begin to look at the reality of life in St. Kitts and Nevis, hard and difficult as it is, we cannot help but appreciate the metaphor of St. Kitts and Nevis at a dead end. We examine the economic drivers to see signs of vitality and growth and progress. You talk about tourism, and indeed, they have started on a part of recovery since 2021, 22, etc. They have been growth, but we are still a long journey to go. And you speak to the people who are dependent on tourism for a livelihood, and you understand that even in December, the tourism season is not going very well. There is a stark realization, for example, that in the cruise, we have lost a lot of passengers, we have lost a lot of vessels. One person familiar with the market tells me that November just ended has been the worst November in the cruise industry. And we know already we have lost several hundred thousands when we compare where we were. And where we were when we exited office or just before COVID, because that would be a normal year, in 2019, was that we had become a market port. We had become a port thanks to your work and the second cruise pair. where we were able to accommodate over 1 million cruise passengers. We are far away from that still, and the projections which I've seen in the IMF reports indicate that we will not get there for another couple of years. That will be too many years of waiting. They are the people who go on the beach, who perform and offer various services. And you ask them, how was your day? They say to you, well, these persons who are coming not spending, very few of the passengers who come off basically engage in any significant spending beyond perhaps their prior commitment, maybe to go to Karambola, to go scenic railway. So the trickle down effect is not there, and tourism performance is at best lackluster. We look at what is supposed to be another economic driver, construction. Little or nothing is happening. The beautiful, prosperous years of the Team Unity administration, when we had, for example, the second cruise pier going, we had an island main road completed, and we had a housing construction taking place, and the engagement of the private sector in rapid housing construction and development, all those good, prosperous years are now elusive. So nothing of significance is happening. You speak to contractors and tradesmen, and they tell you they haven't had a good work in the last 16 months of the Joe administration. Nothing is happening. In the words of one commentator, the country is at a dead end. Personal credit is at an all-time high. Everyone is broke, as we would say in local parlance, finding it hard and difficult. And so you have debt, the EBT, and you have debt. You spoke to the homicides, and in that regard, I want to extend my own sympathies publicly to the family of the Harvey, Charleston Harvey, who passed yesterday. I, in fact, went to visit the family, spoke to his brothers and sisters, friends, and so on in the community. And really, it was a painful experience. That, tragic as it was, and of course, brutal as it was, is something that the family will take a hard time, a long time, to recover from. And my heart goes out to the mother who is abroad and who had to learn that her son had passed in that way. We spoke about agriculture. Agriculture, we hear the fanciful talk that by 2025 or some period, we will be taking care of 25% of our imports. I mean, that is laughable proposition because certainly there's nothing happening in agriculture. You hear the farmers every day complaining. You hear the leadership of the Farmers Cooperative speaking about the absence, the arrogance of the Minister of Agriculture and his permanent secretary. So nothing is happening there. All you have is a talk, a photo op opportunity, and they move on to some trip somewhere to go and to visit perhaps marijuana fields. And they come back and you wonder if they smoke while they were abroad, because they are speaking in a context that doesn't relate to the reality of our farmers and fishers for whom they have oversight. So, manufacturing, I was surprised. I approached a manufacturer and he told me things are so slow in terms of the manufacturing sector that his plant is now moving on a sort of in the crop time, or the sugar industry would say you're in the undull season. Reduce days of work. Some are getting 3 days work at this particular point in time, and no certainty what next year would hold for them. So when we look at the economic landscape, we can't have hope. We see despair, and it's a gloomy picture that is taking place. When we look at the CBI, clearly that has a crisis of confidence at this particular moment in time. And the visit to China, I'm sure, of Mr. Martin will do nothing to change that. And we will perhaps get into more details about that a little later. But the economic side is bad, and the social side is very bad. 29 murders, 29 murders, and the year is not ended. We have come a long way from the significant reduction we have had in crime. We have gone back to the time of a former Labour administration when St. Kitts and Nevis had been called the murder capital, one of the murder capitals in the
Wow.
world. This is really an unfortunate and unhelpful designation for our country that had made so much progress in the security and safety of our people, thanks to the serious approach I took as Prime Minister and Minister of National Security to fighting crime. In my book, Life Was Precious, in my book, the loss of one person through murder, to violent act was one too many. And we had to do all in our power to contain and then reduce the level of murders in our country. And thank God we can say that on the Team Unity, we restore our country to historic levels of safety and security. Come August 5th, and the tide has changed, and we are back from where we have left it in a state of gloom, in a state of murder happening too regularly for our comfort. And when we begin to examine the impact of these and families, the disruption and dislocation of family lives, the pain that endure in a mother's heart, in a father's heart, in a child's heart, perhaps for a lifetime, we know that the absence of leadership by the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security must be perplexing. There is no leadership in national security. And among the high paying advisors, they are all in chaos, no agreed strategy. And so our country will go from bad to worse so long as this government remains in power. And therefore, we have to be prepared as citizens to stand up for our rights, to say enough is enough. And clearly, we have had enough homicides already, enough murders, and we would want our country to be restored to the peace and safety which my government had brought it to with a lot of hard work, innovative ideas such as peace program, aimed at dismantling the gang, aimed at ensuring that those who was so-called the bad boys, as some call them, had a stake in the country, understood that the peace and security in St. Kitts and Nevis was advantageous to them, and we gave them an alternative pathway to work, to become self-employed persons. And as a result, we saw an easement, an overtime. East could go west, and west could go east. And our country, thanks be to God, became a safer and better place. We have again an opportunity with the People's Labour Party at the helm of the country to fix these things that have gone wrong. And we are committed to lead a broad-based effort of patriotic citizens and divisions at home and abroad to rescue our country, because the country in a real sense is dying. We hear a lot of bravado speech, and you mentioned some of them, but nothing And those who are supposed to be leading by example, they are the worst culprits. But they make a pretense at being superior than other ordinary mortals to hide their abuse of power. So, in a nutshell, the People's Labour Party, and I as its leader, we are ready to ensure that we can save our country from ruin, put our country back on a secure space and place, put our country back to work, create opportunities for more people to share in national prosperity. My heart breaks and bleeds for the young people at home, many of whom have been unable to find meaningful work. Many parents are lamenting that they have done all they could to support their children through secondary school, through the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College, and now they are ready for work. No jobs. No jobs in the private sector, no jobs in the public sector. And whenever there is any vacancy, they are told, and they go, the politics looms large in the selection, and persons who are talented, prepared, and disciplined are being excluded. Something is awry with this state, and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, individual citizens, have to begin now to make the commitment that we will have a change of government. And the sooner that can come through democratic means, the better it will be to unleash a new era of prosperity and development for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Prime Minister, you made mention of quite a lot tonight. And I want to dissect some of what you advance in terms of the various sectors. For example, the manufacturing sector. And you said manufacturers have told you that things are so bad that they can only provide 2 and 3 days work for their employees. And that rings a bell in my ear, and it tells me something, that for some time we've been talking about increasing the minimum wage. So how would that impact that possibility of an increase in minimum wage if, in fact, the manufacturers are saying that they cannot afford to give them a 40-hour week? How would that impact the increase? Or how would the increase impact that?
Well, what is needed, manufacturers are suffering like the rest of the country is suffering because the government has failed. The government has failed to ensure that the economy grows in a way that is inclusive and redounds to the benefit of all the people. Some of the local manufacturers, for example, they are being bypassed in areas in which they have been involved for many years in the production of goods and services, because the government has determined some people will live and some will not live, in a manner of speaking. If they perceive you did not vote for them, their job is to ensure that you are being displaced. That is what is happening. And so you have persons who provided a range of support services, and suddenly they can provide that service no more. The government has determined, and it is not just alone happening in the manufacturing sector, but across the whole area of socioeconomic activity. You cannot get a job from the government unless you show your party card. That is what is happening. and the economy itself is grinding to a halt. When that happens, it affects manufacturing, it affects retail, it affects banking, it affects everything. And so we need again to unleash new vitality in the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis so that businesses would have more opportunities to grow and develop, and as a consequence, to recruit more persons to do the job. That is what is happening. Same problem you have with the restaurants. Businesses are slow. Businesses are slow. We are close to the carnival season. The spirit is not even there. Bastia is still very much a dull place. There is no hype of activity. You go into those who are engaged in construction, as I said, the bulk of the contractors hardly have had a good job for the last 16 months. So they can't be doing a recruitment of masons and carpenters and all the other support services. And everywhere we go, it is the same. The economy is in decline. And as a consequence of that, it is impacting the viability of businesses everywhere. And that is worsened by the intervention of the government in a party political way to victimize persons who it has worked out are not its supporters. And that is creating a terrible repercussion for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis at this particular moment in time. High level of unemployment, not just among the young people, among the middle-aged, all areas. You could hardly find a space. Even on the STEP program, the government has had a political axe, taking off persons who should be on the program and bringing in its own people on the STEP program. You have former labor ministers and at least one current minister, I'm advised. They have employees in their commercial enterprises being paid for by the taxpayers of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the small businesses that should be getting the help, you go and you ask for some help, and they say to you, they cannot take you on. So we have to get the economy right. And once we get the economy right, put it on a path of continuing growth and vitality, then we will see more job creation taking place. When we really begin to excite the imagination and interest of people in entrepreneurship and in all the other niche areas that they can go, then jobs again will be created. What we have really is the incompetence of the government, creating obvious damage to the economy. And as a consequence, we are seeing the drop in the demand for employment at a time when the country really needs that, when people need to be empowered.
Prime
And
Minister.
so,
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Make a point.
No. So finally, I'm saying once we get the economy right, we could begin to look rationally at the issue of the minimum wage. But let's not forget, because elections do have consequences. It is this Labour administration that said to the people in their manifesto, it is listed of one of their 7 important initiatives that they are going to increase the minimum wage to $500. They say that. And if they find now they cannot do what they promised, they must come to the people and let them know they told an untruth, they didn't do proper analysis. What is the rationale and where do we go from here? But no one can begrudge the workers asking for more. because the last 16 months have been hard and harsh and difficult, and the cost of living have led to a diminution in the purchasing power of people. You can't buy the same things this year that you were buying last year, so they need more money. The case for an increase is easy to be made. You have raised the question now from the side of the employer. And that is an important issue. That is why we had a tripartite mechanism. Labor, union, or unions, the workers' representative, the government, and the employer class coming together to make a determination on how wages would move in the country. That exercise must go its course. But we have heard from a senior official in the Labor Department saying that the livable wage is $575 per week. So if he says that, from his research, from their knowledge, we can't come now to argue about the wage increase that was promised to the persons. So that is something that there must be some leveling with the public about. But the people deserve, and I certainly will not be arguing against the workers who have been hurting over the last 16 months getting a better standard of wages so that they can live.
Dr. Harris, you stress quite a lot on getting the economy right. You also made mention of the upcoming season of Carnival and Christmas, and lots of people are suffering, right? You made mention of those on the PAP who have been displaced.
Yes.
Thousands have been displaced, which have literally taken that money out of the economy. And it seems as though getting the economy right, my interpretation would be at least to find ways of stimulating the economy. And one such way, which we have come familiar with, your former colleague made this comment, and I want you to listen to it and let me get your reaction.
My own view on this double salary story is that it is a bad idea. It is unsustainable. This notion of every Christmas government taking up millions of dollars in the context of Nevis is about 10 million. So think it has to be at least 2.5 times that. So you're talking about 30 to 35 million dollars every Christmas. For what? And I honestly say for what? Because a lot of people getting that money are not producing. And if it causes some upset, then I apologize for that upset, but it's a fact. And so if we're going to compensate people, we should base it on their performance. Are they coming to work on time? Are they there? Are they committed to the task at hand? They're putting in that extra effort when necessary. But them who come late, take 2 hours for lunch, leave early, always sick, always home, always got problems, always out of the office, walk in the street, down in the bar, them in tongue drinking rum, and come Christmas, them hold a double salary just so.
Dr. Harris, as some would say, or some have said, that proposition borders on, being preposterous, absurd, silly, and a total ignorance of how the economy works. And there must have been some reason, right, for paying that double salary annually. I think under your watch it was paid 5 or 6 consecutive years, barring the COVID period. So what is your reaction to that proposition from your former colleague?
Well, I think Mark is quite off the mark on this one, and he knows it. And I am sure on reflection, he must have thought, well, I really this time misspoke. And he had. Because I don't think anyone in their right mind would make a case against workers receiving their due. we had set the standard that every year we would pay the double salary once the resources of the country allowed us to do so. And we did, year after year. So there is a legitimate expectations on the workers' part that they would receive their double salary. And I have given full support to that. Full support to that. If the government has wasted the nice $700 million left behind, which was more than adequate to meet their needs, then they must say so. If they have taken the economy to a new low and the fiscal house is not in order, then they must say so, and then we could have another debate. But clearly, to make the argument that some workers are not performing and therefore you are going to deny them is a laughable proposition, because the workers in every workplace, you have exceptional workers and some who are mediocre and poor. And what is the employer responsibility? Get the workers to the standard that they deserve. If, as my former colleague said, civil servants are down in Charlestown drinking rum, then there's a public service commission. So he is not performing. By allowing that to happen and then to use that as an excuse for not wanting to pay. And the question of payment really never did arise in relation to the NIA, because whenever I paid double salary, I paid double salary to all employees of the government, of the federal government in St. Kitts and the NIA. The burden was never carried by the NIA. Every year, they will send down their list of their listing of all the entities, NEVLEC and so on, the NIA, and we will pay them. It was a burden that the federal administration carried. So this talk about it will be 10 million for Nevis, it never cost Nevis Island administration anything. And so we had always, as part of the family, taken good care of the citizens and residents in Nevis, working for the NIA and the statutory bodies there, as we did for those working federally. So the question of non-performance is, my view, that is just, it's nothing really. It's not an argument, because the government has its human resource department to deal with that matter. But I would say from my experience, we have some outstanding workers in the government. I work with them. Some who work late at nights, Saturday and Sundays, to ensure that the work of the government is being done. I recall that during the COVID years, not 1 week did we miss a payment. Dedicated, hard-working, productive workers went week after week to ensure that the Treasury met its commitment to the workers of St. Kitts and Nevis. I will not use that broad brush to talk about lack of performance. That is not what is happening in our country. Yes, there are some who do not perform well, but there are those who perform exceptionally well. And you will find them in every department, and equally in the private sector. Because workers are workers, and a lot depends upon the level and quality of supervision. And many of the workers who may not be performing are doing so because they think they have political privileges, so that their supervisors cannot do them anything because their ministers would intervene. So don't come with that argument. You made the point, and I agree with you. We pay the double salary not only because we saw it as a reward for the employees of the government, but importantly, it provided a significant boost in expenditure and helped, as it were, to stimulate greater economic activity. More money in circulation meant better business. And as a result of better business taking place, the private sector employers were placed in a better position to provide bonuses to their employees. So I do not agree with Mark on this one. Mark's arguments are really fallacious and they have no bearing. And every civil servant really should look forward to it. I want to make this point too in relation to the whole issue of the double. The government also promised that it will give a $500 dividend payment. And that too is a promise made and a promise that should be kept. I think that it is unreasonable and unfair to say, well, government should not give its employees a bonus payment unless it gives it to private sector, because it is really an employer-employee relationship. And in the double, the government is giving it to its employees. The private sector give bonuses from time to time to its workers. And the government workers can't say, well, TDC gave such and such. Well, they could, and we should be entitled because there are different employment relationships and expectations. And so I would say that there are two distinct things that ought not to be mixed up, and that the performance notion that has been raised is really not made with good foundation, and it's not a sustainable argument. The impact on the economy has always been very beneficial, and it is no excuse that in the month of December, we usually will have one of our strongest haul in terms of revenues into the coffers of the Treasury. December and January usually are some of the best months because in January you have some of that spillover benefits and people have their monies in December, they can go and meet their tax obligations, etc.
So
Given the suffering of the people, really, this payment is really necessary. And the Prime Minister, if he was thinking in a caring way, would have set this matter to bed a long time ago by making the commitment that he would do so that people could organize their lives properly.
Not to give any credence whatsoever to your former colleague across the Narrows, but and just so the listening audience can be very clear on this, you said that all happened when you announced a double salary for civil servants. The Premier would send across his list of workers that would benefit, and it costs the NIA absolutely nothing. Am I correct?
Absolutely nothing.
And this is
federal government
paid that.
Very important.
And this was in addition to the monthly budgetary support?
Yes.
Okay.
Budgetary support and all other support that we were providing.
Okay, so I'm trying to rationalize, in my own mind, why as someone makes such a statement, because the NIA has promised a 5% increase to their workers come January 2024. Would that have been coming from the federal budget as well, or their own budget?
Well, that one was not specifically put before us, but remember that the contribution, the budgetary support that was introduced by my administration for the first time constitute a significant part of the revenues of the NIA, as much as maybe 40%, 35 to 40% of it. So any payment that they are making, you could logically say 35 or 40% of that is being covered federally.
And the number as it adds up, accumulates over an annual period is $66 million during your time. That's $5.5
Yes,
million.
that was the
Yes.
last arrangement that,
So
that we had. Yes.
So there's no increase since the government has changed. From all.
Not to my knowledge, and that has not been said publicly.
Okay. Now we're gonna go to the lines momentarily, though. But having said that, the country is at a dead end. We're at a crossroads.
Yes.
And given the fiscal disposition as we speak, no. I mean, well, if you were there, no doubt it would have been different. But given the fiscal situation, would you have paid the double salary for 2023?
Of course, the double salary must be paid. We have not heard this government being clear and frank and truthful regarding the state of the fiscal affairs of the country. They have said they have stabilized everything. From a bank with over $1 billion, they said that needed stabilizing to Social Security. So the government itself doesn't understand how the economy works. And the government ministers really constitute a traveling circus. They are more often away than they are here. They really don't understand what is going on, and they have not taken the time to learn the job. And that is the challenge that the country faces, or else we will not be having these kinds of mishaps, misstatements, incoherence from the government. And when you are paying the double salary, you have to look at a number of things. And one of the things I always look at, apart from the economic impact, is the plight of the people, because you're paying people their money. The government money has come from the taxpayers of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is their money, and you are spending it properly on them, because in the end, what is the aim? Help our people to help themselves. That is why I introduced the PAP, because I recognize that the minimum wage at the time was not sufficient for the ordinary man and woman to be able to survive. And this notion of the livable wage, which became a critical part of the PLP's platform when we were launched officially, I began to put that in place so that the $500 was to help, as it were, close the gap between the minimum wage of $360 thereabout per week and what should constitute a livable wage, so that people can live a decent life. And that is a significant motivator for paying the double salary. It is part of our social safety net. We can't have people for 16 months going through a tightness. The older folks, those with chronic diseases, can't afford to buy their medications because the cost of living has gone too far up, and we do not bring relief. The double salary then and the PAP program was part of the adjustment to the gap, the inequalities in the society. And we cannot turn a blind eye to the plight of the people. In fact, the wisdom coming out of COVID was that we must try to bring that season of dislocation to end as quickly as possible, and that we should not too quickly withdraw the support that we provide in, like income support, support to family disabilities, because if we were to withdraw them too quickly, then it would have a worse scarring, not just of the economy, but on people's life. And when you look now and understand the hardship of mothers in their homes, they can't buy carnation milk and they can't afford the bonnet milk. The Prime Minister, living at their expense, can afford to purchase their camel milk, the most expensive milk available, we are told. The scarring of people's life is an imperative for action. When you consider the indignities our young women, etc., are exposed to, because they cannot feed their family. The minimum wage is not enough. 3 days' work is not enough. Who then would lead? Who then will intervene? It must be the government. There is no other agency with the capacity to do so than the government. And that is why we will always look at the people's plight. When I brought in the historic roof program that helped 4,000 or 5,000 families to get an improvement in their house, it was because I was concerned about people, their living standards, and their conditions of work. Same with the PAP. And we help everyone, regardless of their politics. In St. Paul's, we helped. In Old Road, we helped. In Newtown, we helped. Everywhere, we help. In number 7, we help. In number 8, all across the country. And we provided several $millions to the NIA to do their own roof repair program coming out of the hurricanes. But these are what you have to look at, where the people are and how we are going to get them to the better place. Because we have created, well, I shouldn't say we, let me rephrase, the last the administration, which came into being after the elections of the 5th, have created a new class of persons, popularly being called the ultra poor. People who really, really are facing hardship each day. There are mothers out there who will wake up tomorrow morning, not one thing in the house to give to a young baby, can't buy Pampers. How could we be indifferent to that kind of poverty and indigence that has taken place in our country in a short of 16 months? Things have gone to the dogs, in a manner of speaking.
If in the event you have just joined us, my Straight Dog family, we have with us tonight for the entire program our third Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Sylvester Harris. He will be with us, as I said, for the entire program. We are going to open the lines momentarily, a few moments from now. We will entertain your calls. We'll also entertain your emails. I see my emails are just, I have an oversupply of emails, so we'll address them as well. Don't worry, my Straight Dog family. And if we have to stay here until tomorrow morning, once the third Prime Minister says it's okay, we will. But before we move on and move to the lines, Dr. Harris, there's a lot of talk about anti-corruption, integrity in public life, good governance, and those fancy words. Although we've seen what's happening under this administration, the Drew administration, the lack of tendering, there's no request for proposals, whether for services or for works, but there's a new DPP on the block. We understand as well he has been appointed as special prosecutor. I don't know how that is possible, but we will address that on a subsequent program right here. But the director of public prosecution, I almost want to say public prosecution, had this to say, and I want to ask you a question after playing this soundbite which I played before.
Your DPP stands ready. As soon as you hand over those names, I've already drafted the charges. I've already drafted it. It's just a matter of putting in your name and signing it and the different dates and so on, and a charge is laid. I've already laid down the gauntlet. It's either you do what you're required to do, or you suffer the inconvenience of having to pay lawyer, inconvenience of going to court, etc. The choice is yours.
Prime Minister Harris, the information that has come to Straight Talk, and I've actually heard it myself coming from the chairperson of the Integrity in Public Life Commission, that there are 2 parliamentarians who have not filed in compliance with the legislation, which in fact you are the one who operationalized, and you must take credit for that. But
Yes,
the DPP said he has the charges already drafted, and the names are blank, and the date is blank. All he has to do is put in the names. Is your name one that can be put in? Have you filed?
Yes, I
that's a serious
have filed,
question.
and
You have filed.
it is a serious question. I am in good compliance
You have,
with all
okay.
of my obligations. I would go further to say that I filed before all members of the cabinet. And you ask me how I know that. Because I was at the office on 2 occasions. The Thursday, and I think the final day was the Friday, or the appropriate day was the Friday. And while I was there, the photographer came. He said, they sent me here, said I should be here because the cabinet want to come to do their filing. Up to when I left, no member of cabinet was there. So I could comfortably say, and I stayed on and look on to see whether they will come, because, half an hour after he had said that, they hadn't come. The cabinet itself has been delinquent. And this is the hypocrisy of the government. Good governance so important to them. They are the star of the show. But they are fakes. They are the last, on the last day for filing. The cabinet went to file way past working hours. How could that be right? How could they lead by example? Why do they want then to send ordinary civil servants file to the DPP? Why? When they themselves had no commitment. Members of this cabinet who ought to have filed went away, and they could have done their filing in advance. You had an end date that you must file by such and such a date. You could have filed before. How could this government then come to tell us that they are concerned about integrity when they have none? They have none. But there is an air of arrogance among some of the ministers, some of them who have been part of the oppressor class, and they want to believe they have a better standard than the ordinary people. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. They were the last of the civil servants. And in the ordinary course of it, it was an ordinary person. And they reached by the time the cabinet would have reached. You'd have had problems. You'd have problems. So they have 2 sets of laws. One, and we see it everywhere, one set of persons must pay their social security on time, or else they go to jail. And another set of people could have their nanny gate. 20 odd times they break the law, and they get off scotch-free. Why is the double standard? Who gives them the moral authority to chastise us? They must lead by example. and they must understand the equality of treatment before the law. That is what people deserve. Whether you are an attorney general, a prime minister, you must abide by the very law that you are asking others to abide by. And this is why people are not taking them on. I am not surprised a lot of people not taking them on, because people understand they are not real. They are masquerading themselves and speaking out of turn and in ways that are ill-advised.
So let me get this clear from you. You went to file in accordance with the required date. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
And a photographer came and met you there. Was a government photographer?
Yes.
And
yes.
he or she
He was
did not,
sent there.
and he could not.
Yes.
Obviously, he could not take your picture. Otherwise, he would have done
no,
it. But you're a member of
I
parliament.
didn't go there for the photo op of it. I
No?
am not the cabinet.
Okay.
I went there simply out of respect to the law and respect for the personalities involved. You know, I wanted to give them a sense of encouragement and to lead by example.
I'm asking you in the context because when I reflected on the pictures that came out via social media, on the Facebook and so on, you would have thought that they were the only ones who had filed. And in fact, you said you filed before them.
They went late, extra late.
My.
They would have filed, I am sure, after 7 o'clock, because I stayed on for a while speaking to people. That's when the cabinet went to file, and not even the complete cabinet. How dare they have the gall to be threatening people like that? Out of order and disrespectful, arrogant. It should not happen.
My Straight Talk
We
family.
must call it out for what it is.
Yes, we will. And Straight Talk will. They are a bunch of hypocrites, as we would say it in local parlance. My Straight Talk family, you've been listening in the event you have just joined me to the third Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris. He has been a successful Prime Minister. And it's hard to say otherwise unless you are just clear, straightforward, political, or a political bias. But we, here on Straight Talk, we always entertain your calls, we always entertain your emails. And it's 9:23, and I suspect we will go after 10 o'clock tonight. So don't get too excited, callers. The phones are going, and I will entertain all your calls. So do not be afraid of not being able to get through to speak to your Prime Minister. Now, as I said, the time is 9:23. I always like to implore my Straight Talk family that when I open the lines, I anticipate and I implore you to respect others. To achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned. Let us, in the process, try to build goodwill and better friendships. Let us ensure that the things we say and or do will be beneficial to all concerned. And in saying and or doing those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. The numbers again are 663-6672. And those on the overseas line, it's 646-829-6672. I will now go to the lines and say good night to our first caller. Caller, you are live.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for taking my call.
Always a
I
pleasure.
will make it short, even though I want to get in everything. Thank God for spare life. Best Prime Minister, I hear you what's coming, so let me big you up. Belated, better late than never. Be strong. You're only one man, not 10. That's why they cheat the election. They could not beat you. Best Prime Minister, Wednesday, stand up to the big and bad. Just come, think they know everything. 7 years, never mind it was Corona. You did not gonna join the ride. Like, no. No ideas, no plans. Ask I South up. They wanted all your news and hiding theirs now. Blood a whistle. More times for the ungrateful puppy show. You make them what they is and want to say so much things about you. With the blessing of God, not man. New Year's greeting. Whatever the season and the year ahead brings, it's sure to be special because you are. Thank you. Good night. Everybody got to get safely. You hear me?
Yes,
Yes, yes, Alice.
Well,
Thank
let
you
me
very
hear his
much.
voice.
Oh,
Thank you very much, Alice, my love. Continue to keep me in prayer.
Hello.
yes, it's hearing you. It sounds like Alice in
Yes.
Yes,
Wonderland.
I finished, but I asked you if the Prime Minister hear me.
Yes, he just answered you. Haven't you heard him?
Oh,
Yes,
no.
I hear you.
Tell him come up and
And
say
I
it harder.
thank you.
He's,
I thank you, Alice. I love you. I'll
okay.
come and see you
Okay
before the
then.
season.
Have a good night. Get
All
home
right, my
safely.
love.
Have a good
I
night.
will, my love.
That sounds like Alice in Wonderland. Or I disconnected this caller in error. I apologize, caller. I was trying to clear the lines for you. The lines are open. It's 9:26. We go straight back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes, you're live.
Hello?
Yes, you're
Yeah,
live.
good evening, Patches.
Good
And good evening, third Prime Minister.
Good evening.
This is the man culture who speaks his mind. I don't watch any face when I'm speaking. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, I would like you to tell the whole world of listeners to this program some of the things that Team Unity administration has done for the country in the 7 years that you are here, because Dr. Joe, he's driving the country with information backward in a reverse gear. And every time he opens his mouth, he's always looking back and calling your name and said, for the 7 years that you were Prime Minister of the country, the government hasn't done anything. So if you could please highlight some of the things that Unity did to the listening audience, let it hear the truth now that is opposing the lies that were told by Dr. Joe. And anyway, happy belated birthday. I was waiting until you come, and I'm glad that you are coming at least once per month. I'll listen out here.
Thank you very much, caller. Dr. Harris, you want to respond quickly before we go back to the lines?
Well, there are many things really, and I think the spectacular growth of the country speaks for itself. The level of infrastructure development, we have seen those enumerated time and time again. A modern cruise pier, the west and east bus stand, the paving of an entire island main road, the old road issue in terms of the disruption of the road whenever there is a hurricane, that being corrected, our fisheries infrastructure being improved, our housing program, 4,000 plus persons receive assistance, the best record in the region, in Latin America and the Caribbean, in responding to the COVID-19, income support of $1,000, $600 per month to families with children with disabilities. I mean, we could go on and on. Over 4,000 families benefited from the roof repair program. Sugar workers got a $16 million bonus being paid for their services in the industry. I mean, it's a record like none other, and it will take a lot of time basically to speak to them. When Dr. Ju speaks like that, it tells you that he is dishonest to the core. I mean, we built and rebuilt the Mary Charles Hospital. We built a brand new health center in Tabernacle and named it after one of our most senior and dedicated nurses, Nurse Sylvia Garnett. And we could go on and on. The highest level of jobs in the country happened on the Team Unity. We achieved the designation of a marquee port, over 1 million cruise passengers 2 years in a row. We had the largest fiscal buffers, and I could go on. An historic achievement was the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis. For the first time, the federal government provided in its budget for support to the island of Nevis from 25 million to 45 million to 66 million. Never before. The record before us was that on a Wednesday, the checks for the civil servants in Nevis were bounced by a Labour administration. So compare us to what was before us is really comparing chalk and trees. We were the most successful administration
Okay, let's go back to the
of
lines.
other time in the country.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Harris, let's go back to the lines. Thank you for holding caller. You're live. Hello, caller.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Libert. How you doing, man?
I am peaceful, my brother. Yourself?
Yeah, and good evening to your guest, man, the Honorable Harris. Well, real quickly, man, I want to hear one of your somebody else, your caller. Culture, no slide whining tonight. Straight to the point. Yeah, I want to commend the Prime Minister for really declaring his assets. That's number one. And I want to get his comments on the CBI, the transparency of the CBI. You know, Patches, I was asking you for a document from Harris. Can you go across to him now and see if there's a document that he can bring forward when he was putting out those figures? Just so he can bring something to the public for your listening public.
Okay.
I want to know if his administration left that 85% increase in the parliament for the parliamentarians. And, you know, I want to also figure out, you know, when these issues come to the national level, right? Why is he sitting back? Would he be willing to lead a peaceful protest in the street on any one of these national issues that might come up? And, you know, I'll leave it there for now.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks
for your input. We'll have those questions answered. We go back to the lines and thank this caller for holding. Caller, you live. Hello, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Libert.
Yes, good evening, sir.
And good evening, Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, Carl Brown here. Good evening to the listeners home and abroad. Dr. Harris, don't forget there was a 10% increase under your administration.
Yes. There were so many other things.
Yes, there was a 10% increase under your administration to civil servants.
Yes.
And
retroactive.
also, you obtained Prime Minister in 2015 and 2016. You gave the country an update on the amount of passport that was sold then. And when you were asked again in 2018, you gave the country the update on the amount of passport that was sold. Well, I have been asking Prime Minister Joe, I have been asking Mr. Michael Martin up until now, and each time the question even posed to them by reporters, they spin or divert around the questions and tell us things that we already know. And what we keep asking them is to tell us what we don't know. How many passports has Dr. Drew signed off on since he obtained Prime Minister? How many passports in total has the country sold
up until now, and Dr. Joe would not answer the question, and Mr. Michael Martin would not answer the question. The other thing is, don't forget on the unity, the repair of and repainting and upliftment of public works, school meal, the government headquarters, the treasury, and many other government businesses which was under poor condition and was repainted, uplifted, and really were fashion. It was a fashionable thing for the whole country to see. Don't forget houses that was built on the unity, many lands that was given out, and and many roads that was done, and also many lights was lighted up in areas which was not lighted for many years under the Labour government before. And don't forget the Honorable Mark Brantley boasted on many occasions is the best relationship St. Kitts Nevis ever had, and the best treatment under the union of St. Kitts Nevis. It was done under unity government under the leadership of Dr. Timothy Harris. Agan.
Thank you very much.
It was.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try to include some of the emails as well before I get to respond, Prime Minister. And this email reads, don't forget the achievement of paying off the IMF debt as well.
Yes.
So at least the listeners are following and checking your scorecard well for you. Good evening, Mr. Patches reads this other email. I have a couple of questions. Yes, no. Questions for the distinguished guests that you have on tonight. Blessings, Mr. Harris. Without Sam Condor, there would not have been a team unity government. Yes or no? Is it true for the record of transparency? If Mr. Condor wanted to speak to you, he could not just roll up in the Church Street at headquarters and have a chat with you. He had to know his place and call for an appointment. Yes or no? Now, Mr. Harris, I hope you do not have a lapse of memory or either of these two easy questions. Mr. Patches, thank you. And I hope Santa brings you a nice present for Christmas. God bless you, great patriot and our warrior from the East. But the questions before us, though, Prime Minister, one question as it relates to the CBI passports. And you made mention on two occasions of the number of passports that were quote unquote sold. And you quoted from a document, if I recall, it was the CBN, Canadian, what is it, currency, whatever it is.
Banknote.
Bank note, yeah, CBN, right? Banknote.
Acronym, yeah.
And
Caribbean banknote.
This caller seemed to question whether it was a document that it is a real document. You could be reading from anything, but how does that go? Perhaps you can explain for the listenership. And as well as the other question relates to the 85% increase, whether it was approved under your tenure as Prime Minister. Perhaps you can dispense of those before we go back to the lines?
Okay. Very quickly, no. There was no 85% increase that was approved by me, nor by my cabinet, nor by Parliament. According to the law that governs the changes in salaries and perquisites of ministers of government, more particularly members of cabinet, the Governor General, etc., the process has to be activated by the Governor General. He would then forward that to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister then would take it to the cabinet for a discussion, and then Cabinet should recommend that it moves on to the Parliament for action. As far as that process initiated by the Governor General was concerned, a report was submitted to the Governor General. The Governor General, in fulfillment of his duty, informed me of the content of the letter, but he had advised me then that he did not think it was prudent to proceed. I had, in fact, said to cabinet colleagues, this is not a time for us to be discussing. And that report was conducted, I think, in 2019 by some very prominent members of the community. Howard McCracken, if I'm not mistaken, was the chair. We had Brenda, John, we had Dr. Henry Stugumba Brown and others. And that report was provided to him somewhere in 2019 or thereabout. By March 2020, we were in COVID. So we never had time really to discuss such a matter, nor was it a priority. And so that was the end of it. I could tell you though, nowhere at all in that report was a proposal for an 85% increase. Never. And I've never heard anywhere that anyone gives an 85% increase. So that would be an historic first for St. Kitts and Nevis. And it really is a falsehood that had been put out by the Jew administration because they were looking for cover to hike their own wages and salaries by 85%. How could people who wanted 85% increase and their high salaries of nearly $20,000 but deny ordinary people who are carrying the burden of this country, their servants, deny them a proper livable wage? How could you justify that? They did not even work a year. The bulk of the people working for government, working for years. And if you were to evaluate talking about performance, any of those ministers, all of them would fail. But they want 85% increase for failing the people. And then they want to deny you your double salary. Hypocrisy. And they are heartless if they do not pay this double salary. Heartless, and the public must deal with them on that score. So nothing in relation to 85%. It's really a wicked deception mounted by the government in their shame. Quickly, the Canadian banknote was a company that was hired to manage our passports. And every passport issued by St. Kitts and Nevis is documented by the Canadian banknote. I mean, it's an online system, etc. They have all of the information, and therefore it is to them that we look to get appropriate counts and the number of passport issued and the nationality of persons to whom they were issued. This information could be had daily. So when Dr. Ju claims he doesn't know, Dr. Ju is lying. Dr. Ju is being dishonest. Dr. Ju is not being transparent. He could have the information on request as the Minister of Citizenship. That will be part of the data that he can get easy. It is to that body that we look to when we had to recall and to pursue the recall of some 15,000 passports which the Douglas administration had issued without the country of birth field, and which was one of the reasons why Canada and the US government sanctioned St. Kitts and Nevis, put us a financial advisory against our CBI program in May 2014, and withdrew our passport, our visa-free access, in the context of Canada for basically the same reason. They could not trust the Labour administration then to be transparent, to be clear and direct with information regarding our citizens. And we are back in the same abyss with Dr. Ju. Things that he should know. He comes and he says, go and ask somebody else and they will tell you. And when you go there, the person don't answer you, as we heard from Carl Brown. But he should know. He ought to know. And it has been a regular staple at the press conference. But again, no transparency, no belief in good governance, no belief in it. It is part of the hypocrisy in the government. That is why they have lost trust. And nobody will trust their lives in their hands again. All they do is just mouth, nothingness.
But apart from who ought to know, who is mandated or who is obligated to release that information? Isn't it the minister?
Well, it's the minister because I made the point that he is a minister for citizenship.
Okay.
The passport is the outward expression of one's citizenship to a country.
And secondly, to satisfy that caller, is that a document that should be released to the public or not? The
Yes,
document from the
I
CBN.
think the statistics can be released. There's a public demand for it, and there's no reason basically why it cannot be done. I know there are other countries that does that. I mean, if you say, for example, that 15,000 Russians have become citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis to a legitimate process, what harm does that do? If you say 100,000 persons from China, similarly, and 500 from the USA, what harm does that do?
Yeah, but in terms of the actual document, is the document disposed that way? The document you read from, the caller is questioning the veracity of the statement you made reading from the document. So I'm asking the question,
Well,
is that document... So go ahead.
Well, that document available. All I did was to get the PS to require the information, and the information is there.
Okay.
That is what you do. You have an arrangement. Canadian banknote is hired and paid for by the taxpayers of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay.
Their duty is to provide for the safety, security of our passport. And part of that involves knowing how they are disposed. So any passport given any day here is recorded up there.
Okay.
They're responsible for procuring the passports, sending them. They know how many you have, how long that batch would last. They have a reasonable expectation of that because that is part of their management function and oversight over the passport and keeping them safe.
And they have
issues of disposal of them, they also would advise the government.
And they have been paid for years.
They've been paid significant sums. I can't recall the figure now, but they are paid handsomely for it. Because it brings a higher level of assurance by having an independent professional body managing it. You know, it provides for external attestation to the information we will give to the US or any other interested party about our passports, our citizenship.
And they also manage the passports, just for information, for 13 or 14 CARICOM countries. Am I correct?
They manage for quite a number of other countries around the world.
Okay, Dr. Harris reads this email. What is the status with the matter that involves the two cat bell ringers, the snake and the useless Arab, who came out rejoicing that they will soon be arrested in the Federation? Or if you travel, it will happen outside. And as a result, you will be fearful of traveling. I think the Arab was thinking of the case with his late
brother. Well, what I
brother.
would say,
Yeah. I'll finish the email. I'll finish the email. When the FBI orchestrated the plane that his brother was on for Canada, was forced to land in the US and taken captive to prison. Many people were of the opinion, and his brother as well, believed that the crooked Arab was the one who plotted the scheme. However, Dr. Harris, since your lawyer, Mr. Foster, issued an ultimatum for the snake and the Arab to comply with, the deadline has passed, and we are not hearing anything further except to say that the Arab and the snake has gone very quiet. And station manager bawling that he got a letter from Foster as well, and wondering why, because he did not do anything wrong. I'm amazed that this joker has not learned as yet, because the Arab took him to court under similar circumstances And Dr. Wilkinson only let him off because what is the position now with the case, Dr. Harris? Are you at liberty to comment on that?
Well, not in detail to say that the case is still active and the lawyers are doing their due. And I think at the appropriate time, further information would be released. I intend to be vindicated. I intend to pursue my rights, and I have done so by engaging attorney of very high standing and repute. And I therefore basically rest while he does what should be done in a timely manner. And I will, at the appropriate time, say more to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Just to say thanks to all who reached out and engaged me and prayed for me and recognized the wickedness and the conspiracy, basically to attempt to diminish me and to destroy me. And I'm still standing. And for the record, I've traveled on several occasions since then to the United States of America. I'm not a wanted man. And to God, I give the glory for his protection. So tell them when they're digging one hole, dig two.
You're not wanted. You sure?
Stop wisdom in that.
Yeah. Did you say you're not wanted?
No, I am not.
You know,
I am loved by the people. I am not wanted by law enforcement officials.
But you know, Straight Talk has confirmed, and you need not respond, but just for information,
Yes.
Straight Talk has confirmed that Daniel Brantley and Associates, a law firm solely owned by Mark Brantley, the Premier of Nevis, is the agent for MSR Media Limited. And there's a question that arises to it. Was the firm, Daniel Brantley and Associates, owned by the Premier of Nevis, the agent of MSR Media Limited when US $150,000 was paid monthly to MSR Media Limited from the Nevis Island Treasury as negotiated in 2020 during the height of the COVID? You may or may not respond to that email. But let's go back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yes, good night, Chief. Good night,
Good night, sir.
former Prime Minister Harris. I listened your review during your tenure from 2015, and looking at the current Prime Minister tenure from 2020. Now,
2022.
all I'm hearing, 22, sorry. Stand for correction. Thank you, Patches. Now, all I'm hearing is what happened, but what happened in the past. And all I'm hearing on the other side is what they were going to do, that they have not do. Now, all have faults. Now, what the people need to hear, I am aware that you are the leader for PLP and you trying to get back into government leadership. Now, what is your forecast? Knowing what was done that could have done better and you could tweak better. Moving forward with what this government is not doing and you set blames and critique. What is your plan for the people to fall favor to you? And what's the fix? What is gone, gone? All we got to do is build upon to make the future better. What says you, Mr. Prime Minister? I guess you recognize my voice. Because good, better, best, and we should be moving forward now. We shouldn't be crying over stale milk. So that's what I would like to hear moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any quick response to that, Dr. Harris?
Well, I didn't get the voice of the caller, but he can WhatsApp me. But what I said, I think the discussion that we are having give insights into the way forward, and clearly we have to have an anchor on which to move. It's a continuum. The past informs the present informs the future. And if there is one word we will restore St. Kitts and Nevis. One statement I could make very quickly. We will restore St. Kitts and Nevis to a period of prosperity, safety, and security. Prosperity for all. I think that in a nutshell envisions what our development agenda will be. A people-centered, a people-centric agenda advancing the quality of life for the people. Growing the economy, ensuring an adequate safety net, social safety net, to capture those who, for one reason or another, would not be able to assist themselves in the way we think that every person should be able to do and to live a decent existence. So that is what the future is about. And clearly, what is happening now will help sharpen the focus and the elements of that broad vision for St. Kitts and Nevis. And as we move forward, you will hear more particulars, for example, in terms of housing. And you know, some of what we started, they are still relevant. We started, for example, the solar farm project, an $80 million investment delayed for over 16 months by an incompetent government, and they come at long last to tell us, oh, it is a very good project. We have tweaked certain things, and we are going to begin to start the Team Unity project come June next year. Wasted our ready-made project. So the conversation about the future was part of our planning. Same in relation to the water issues. We had reached out to the UAE, had programs for desalination plants. They have been kept back. So our agenda, yes, has always been about the future, and some of the things that we have outlined, as you said, will need to be tweaked, and new ideas will come, and some of the ideas from before still have further validity, and they will be part of the program. But I welcome your own ideas, and feel free to reach out to me by phone or otherwise, and we can pursue this conversation.
Let's go back to the lines. It's now 3 minutes before the 10 o'clock hour. We will give you the extra time to communicate. Yes, my lord, you're live.
Mr. Patrick, good night.
Good night, my lord. It sounds like the Bible man. You're live.
Well, it is so wonderful. You think that tonight, why God is a good God. And then when I look to the east, the west, and the north, and the south, there is no other help but God. But then when you put your confidence in God, nobody could stop you. Mr. Farmer, Prime Minister, no weapon that form against you shall prosper. And every tongue that rises up against him shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servant of the Lord, and their righteousness is midst of the Lord. It is good to give God thanks and praise.
Okay.
The word of God said the prayer of the righteous man availeth much, Mr. Patrick. He said, I was young, now I'm old. I neither see the righteous forsaken, yet my seed begging bread. Tonight I'm giving God thanks and praise for one more time. Lord, we give you praise and we give you all the glory. My Heavenly Father, tonight, we give you all thanks and praise tonight for him. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. So let it be, my dear brother. Thanks for your spiritual intervention, as per usual. This email reads, good night, Patches. Dr. Harris, you recently celebrated 30 years in politics and did a remarkable job. Having lost the last election, do you foresee contesting the next election? The last results showed you you had a decrease, and I believe next time around you may very well lose your seat. I don't want that for you. I suggest it's time you bow out of the ring and groom someone else if PLP is to survive. Do you want to respond to that quickly, Prime Minister? Oh.
Yes, I can. I would say that the records speak for itself. The constituents will vote for Timothy Harris once my name is on the ballot. And I think persons perhaps are not clear of the dynamics. I am the only person in this country who have run on a variety of platforms and on each occasion received the majority of votes and did so in a comfortable way. For the record, when I started, I ran under a Labour ticket and won. In 2015, I contested under a Team Unity ticket and won. In 2022, I contested under a PLP ticket, PLP running alone, and I also won some 54% of the votes. The next closest candidate got about 36% of the votes. That is a difference of some 16 to 18% margin. That tells you where the constituency is. And I could tell you, given the performance of the government so far, the future looks bright. And clearly, one always have to prepare for the future, and part of the preparation is to get as wide array of personalities ready to do battle on behalf of the party and behalf of the country in the near future. What the future holds, we will know when that time comes. But I have no delusion. Once I contest, and for now I am in the contest, I could tell you that I will win my seat and I would lead the People's Labour Party home to victory. So again, you have to disaggregate the data and look at the trend and look at the circumstances in which the elections were conducted and what happened elsewhere. So I am very safe and comfortable within the constituency, and the remarkable achievement of some 30 years, good, nice, historic as it is, really indicate the resilience. Many wrote me off before. In fact, in 2015, I should have lost my deposit. And so it would not be the first time that people underestimate the love, admiration, and support and organizational skills that I have reposed to me, in me, thanks to the grace of God. So I am confident, so do not worry. And of course, because I love the people and love the country, I will always do what will make them happiest. So do not worry about that.
We overlooked a question earlier, Prime Minister, before we go back to the lines. Someone asks, raised the abundance of issues that the people are facing, especially the bread and butter issues. And they ask, I'm paraphrasing here, they ask if you would lead a protest that is so needed. Would you?
I would lead a people's protest. That is one of the responsibility of the leaders. And if people are ready and people indicate to me, let us organize, we will be there. And this particular matter, we could plan. We could begin to plan, because I keep saying that the people must respond. There is no more powerful entity in a democracy than a people engaged in defense of their own rights. We march to the street of Bastille. We do whatever is necessary to ensure that the wickedness, the victimization comes to an end and the abuse of power comes to an end. The contractors have things to do. The fishers the farmers, each group must stand up. And when they are prepared to stand up, others will join them in the search for justice. And that is what I am encouraging. I am ready. I have always been part of protests and agitation. I remember going to National Bank morning after morning, doing what had to be done to bring the injustices that were taking place and the onslaught on democracy to public attention. And I am prepared again. This is my lot. This is my lot.
Okay.
And whatever my lot is, once it is the will of God, I'm prepared to lay my cross with the people.
So will it be. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, thank you for holding your live. Hello, caller.
Okay, Mr. Live, but let me get in 2 questions real quick, man, before you get off. No slide one in tonight, okay? This is for your fans and for the Street Talk listeners. Seeing that recognize that voice of that caller out of New York, I'm coming right on the heels of what he's implying. He's implying that Harris is intentionally coming back to gain leadership again. So my question directly, I'm gonna put both of you on the spot. So to the Honorable Harris, I'm asking him directly if he's thinking about bringing back Ian Patches Libert on his ticket, if he's still coming back to fight for leadership. And then I'm going to ease up off of your neck right about now, and I'm going to go regionally. I want to get some comments from him from the Venezuela and Guyana issue about the dispute lands there in Guyana and Venezuela border, Essequibo lands. Thank you, man. And you guys have a good night and enjoy the holidays, man. Thanks a lot.
Have a good night as well. But that has to do with my availability,
and
I am not available. Yes. Yes.
very quickly, I will answer, taking the last first. The dispute between Guyana and the Republic of Venezuela has been an unfortunate development given the close relationship that we have enjoyed with Guyana as a member of CARICOM and with Venezuela as part of the wider Caribbean basin. Venezuela has been a good friend for us, particularly in terms of energy, but in other areas as well. And we will really want to preserve this zone of peace in the region, and we would want the disputes between Guyana and Venezuela be settled in an amicable way. That is my view as leader of the People's Labour Party. We have 2 large and important countries in our hemisphere with which St. Kitts and Nevis has had excellent relationship, and those relationships, I believe, would endure for a very long period of time. And there had always been some tensions between Venezuela and Guyana. They have reached new heights. We are aware that this matter is before the International Court of Justice. Of course, Venezuela has repudiated that the court has any influence over it. And so we wait to see, though, what the judgments are, and we encourage, in fact, we hope that the meeting that is taking place or is to take place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Thursday, involving both leaders and, in fact, certain other important leaders, like the president of Brazil, Lula, that would send a signal that the leaders have had some reconciliation of their differences, and there's a pathway towards peaceful resolution of this very serious and significant matter involving Guyana and Venezuela.
Thank you. Let's go back to the lines.
And lastly, in relation to the first, lest it said I have hid from it, I have hidden from it, I would say that Ian Patches Libert has been a very productive public servant in every area in which he has worked in an advisory role to the former Labour administration. He has done significant work as permanent secretary in agriculture, in public infrastructure. He has a wealth of knowledge, and even in the private sector engagement that any government would benefit from. And of course, in the international space, he has been our most important ambassador, really, because the ambassador at the UN holds a certain breadth in terms of the number of countries attached to the UN system and the whole global network of activities and engagements which would take place there. So Patches can definitely contribute, has contributed in the past to a better St. Kitts and Nevis. And I say that without now articulating any specific role, because that is something that the future will determine. I wish him good health. And even on this particular program, he has shown very good leadership, love of country, made tremendous sacrifice. Remember, he was, as it were, thrown off the Win FM program for taking up a just cause. And so I want to thank him really for his courage, for his patriotism, love of country, service in the past, and the service he's continued to do, which is very publicly known, well appreciated.
Suffice to add, Dr. Harris, I'm humbled. But this email reads, "Great job, Dr. Harris. You sound like a professional. I can say you are the best prime minister that we ever had in this country. We, the people in the country, miss you, your excellent leadership, because we are seeing an idiot at work. I implore you to do what you can to get back with Pam, because we can't take on Dr. Drew and Labour masquerade anymore. I am sorry that you all messed up the last government, because without a doubt, every civil servant, pensioner, people on step, pap, peace, everybody would have gotten a double salary. Dr. Drew is the biggest mistake in this country." Do you want to respond before I go back to the lines, or should I go back to the lines?
Only to thank the caller or the emailer for expressing a view publicly held that the Team Unity government was the best thing to have happened in the political marketplace in a very long time. In fact, since 1952. And that it was regrettable and painful that the Team Unity arrangement would have collapsed because of the impulsive and the, well, let's leave it there, the impulses of men. And that I think that we are wiser in relation to these matters now. What is regrettable is that so many persons have suffered and will continue to suffer until we secure a change in government, and that must come very soon. And so I will invite all people across the political divide, not just Labour and PAM, they're independent people there, to do something to assist us in forging a united effort, bringing all men and women, young and old, together to ensure that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can certainly get a government which all of us deserve and yearn for.
Carl Brown reads this email. "How can you forget us here at the Bastia police station? Harris revamped the building, had it well cleansed, tiled, and painted in the Orthodox police colors in blue. We here at Bastia police station say thanks, Dr. Harris. You are the greatest leader this federation has experienced. God bless you, sir," reads this email. "Good night, Patches. I want to thank you and Dr. Harris for speaking the truth on the show tonight, because the Labour government is hiding a lot from us. God bless you and Dr. Harris," reads this other email. "Good night, Dr. Harris. Your response to the snake across the narrows on his claim that the double salary should not be paid make him look and sound very dumb," reads this other email. "The people here who are here from overseas are wondering if they are in the right place. Yes, my people, this is St. Kitts, the same place you came to last year and voted to put Labour in power. So why are they asking if St. Kitts is having any carnival this year? Those persons who came and voted for Labour are indeed ashamed, so much so that they are apologizing now. Jew and his crocodiles have sunk St. Kitts into such a depth, not only physical death, but emotional, mental, and financial death. But because they know they continue to live while we suffer, they continue to live. Kittitians, we need to rise and rise above, because every high thing must come down and every stronghold shall be broken. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, thank you for holding your live. We'll take a few more calls before we wrap tonight's program. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yes, good evening, guys, again. Carl Brown here.
Yes,
Mr. Harris, and could you answer a couple of quick things for me? The emailer, don't forget also that on the Team Unity, the prison's roof and everything was repaired, and additional cells was added to the prison on the Team Unity. Dr. Harris will confirm that with the answer. Also,
yes, that is
Dr.
true.
Harris, historic that our UN ambassador was recalled. And I keep asking Dr. Jew, and I keep asking our foreign minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Llewellyn Douglas, please to tell the nation why the UN ambassador was recalled. And Dr. Douglas refused to answer, and the Prime Minister also refused to answer. And all we could hear is that the ambassador was on vacation. The other thing is, could you answer for us the recent press conference that was just held last week about ministers and top government officials have to bring forth their asset worth and value? I am asking, does the commission have any teeth and gum for persons who have overseas bank accounts, who have overseas assets, and also who have offshore bank accounts? Does this committee have any teeth and gum to make these people bring forth all those assets and cash that they have overseas in all these different banks? The last thing is, the government of Nevis went into Parliament recently and put in place that the commission, if one of those persons who are to declare the assets say that they have a hut in a gut and they have $10 in the account, that the commission have to take that. There is nothing. That's what was put in place in Nevis recently in Parliament. There is nothing in place for them to recheck and to make sure that they have a hut in a gut and $10 in the account. So it means that the local commission in Nevis don't have any teeth and any gum. And the question is, those federal ministers is going to follow the St. Kitts Commission and give all their things, all the assets and values and cash. But in Nevis, if they say they got a hut, like I say, and $10, that the commission have to take that. What do you think? And the last thing, how could the DPP is the special prosecutor and still the DPP? So, say Carl Brown is one of those persons who have to declare assets, and then a year later, I achieved $40 million more and can't give an account. Now, see, we're going into court, and the DPP is the DPP and still the special prosecutor. Which hat will he hold? Because definitely he cannot carry the two hats, because that is conflict of interest, sir. So we must appoint a special prosecutor. And I am requesting of them, it's either a retired magistrate or a retired lawyer. The DPP cannot hold the two hats. It's certainly conflict of interest. Gone, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll perhaps take this and make this my last caller for the night. Caller, I'm going to guide you by the rules of brevity. Right there, caller?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, well,
Thank
you've
you.
been here before, so I'll guide you even more by the rules of brevity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, straight to the point. To the Prime Minister again. You as a single constituency leader, and there is Sean as a single constituency leader for People's Action Movement. In spite of what happened in the past, what cause or prevent both of you to ruffle feathers with the wrongs, the foolishness, the stupidness that is going on against the rest? I mean, it's just a question straight up, because I think you all are sitting down too soft, too quiet. I mean, as a single minister, you don't meant good for just your constituency. It's for all people of the country. And I think you should ruffle feathers where wrong is. You be radical about it in a diligent way. And if you should win next election, should the people speak and they put you into that position, you need good people surround with you. You need good advisors, and you need to rule this thing with an iron fist, but not dictatorship. Give the people what they need. But I think you and Sean should ruffle feathers in Parliament. If I were to be in there, because I'm interested, as a single representative, I will ruffle feathers with all the ministers. If I see them doing bullshit, I will go after them.
Yeah, watch your language.
Okay? For the people. Well, I'm only using a conjunction.
No, watch your language. No, we're not accustomed to that here in Straight Talk.
Okay. I recall that. That. Because we could describe it in many ways.
Yeah, but just make your point now. You have a few seconds. Just make your point. Just watch your language.
All right. Well, I would like you to ruffle feathers. I would like you and Sean to ruffle feathers. Because for what is going on, the people have spoken, and they don't like what is going on, and I personally don't. I apologize for that, Patches, and the nation, the federation, and the world.
Thanks for your magnanimity, my brother. I think that's going to be our final call tonight. I'll dispense up these emails, and you give you an opportunity to respond as well, and make your final comments, Dr. Harris, our third Prime Minister. And these emails read as follows. Where am I? It has taken 3 months for the sample smart house that is being constructed in Connery to reach anyway. Heaven help us when this so-called smart house is completed, reads this email. Nationals are being discriminated against because of their political affiliation. Imagine the minister sits in on interviews for persons trying to obtain the price for the land for which they have already paid for the survey. It has taken the Department of Sustainable Development over 7 weeks after an interview to get a letter with the price of the land. This is another form of labor's victimization. Mark Brantley had the audacity or boldness to state publicly that the viable path to the Federation's sustainable state is through Nevis. Well, the acid test for him is to prove that you can sustainably maintain Nevis with 15,000 people first, before he can extend his tentacles to securely sustain our federation of 50,000 people. His arrogance is what has the noose around the neck of the Nevis economy. His style of begging has a lot to be desired, reads this other email. It is very confusing to me that after Mark would have gotten his 25% and Prime Minister Drew gets our 75%, Mark is still coming back with his 2 hands open for a share of Senkis's 75%. Does Mark see the word fool marked on our faces? What about those persons who are below the poverty line in Newtown, Irishtown, St. Paul, St. Peter's, Keon, Parsons, etc.? Well, these people are people too. Mark, stop looking for your unfair share. Mark seems very overwhelmed, so he should simply put up a white flag and surrender the government in Nevis. He has tried his best and it just was not good enough. We call on Mark to resign, reads this other email. Mark Brantley has failed miserably in Nevis to generate any revenue of substance for the Nevis economy in the past several years. As a last desperate effort to try and improve the horrible mess that he has the Nevis economy in, he is pushing his geothermal project, which is far from being bankable, at least not for the next 10 to 15 years. If Prime Minister Drew has any decency, he will ignore Mark, as federal scarce money cannot be ill invested. There seems to be a financial Bermuda Triangle in Nevis, where monies just permanently disappear and never accounted for. Mark Brantley is the biggest mistake made in our country, reads this other email. Good night, Patches. And good night, Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, can you step away from active politics so as to give way to new leadership in this country? Because someone was telling me that your close friends are telling you that you will be the next prime minister, and these persons hate Pam to the core. I must also say this, that it's these same people why you are in opposition today. You took the wrong advice from bitter, greedy persons who continue to rub your ego instead of telling you that the best option is Sean and Pam and PLP in a unity government. And this other email reads, Dear Patches, our cries in our field as farmers have been ignored, and there are so many reports of great corruption and allegations of misappropriation of money in the Ministry of Agriculture. There's a protest being organized by farmers and agriculture workers this week, Wednesday. In our protest, we will cover our mouth with tape to show how they are trying to quiet us by going on the radio to claim that what we are saying is a lie. We will gather at the Department of Agriculture and begin walking to the government headquarters when PM Drew starts his speech. We will stand with our placards in silence until he is finished, then leave. Drew is not practicing good governance. The minister and the peers have totally destroyed agriculture. We are asking the public to join us in protest this week, Wednesday, reads that email. And I think we have covered the emails. One of the things, beg your pardon, the new DPP has said is that he don't know anybody here and he's not looking friends. I am happy for that and hope that he maintains that decision. However, what he have to guard against are those parasites, crooks, and bare-faced hypocrites who will deliberately and purposely approach him intentionally to make friends. Some of them will try to invite him for lunch, to function and other social gatherings, buying company and friendship. Beware of them, sir. They're very dangerous, hypocritical, lie, and bad, and will set you up. Keep your head on and work with your mouth shut, reads this other email. All those who agree in part with Brantley's views on not paying the double salary are just hypocritical and wicked as Mark Brantley himself. Because if Dr. Drew decides to pay the double salary, mark my word, Brantley and his parliamentarians, both in St. Kitts and Nevis, will be the first in the line to collect. They are a bunch of liars, deceitful and corrupt members in Parliament. Time for them to go, reads that email. I must commend Ricardo Keynes of the Nevis Integrity Commission for his courage and being so frank and fearless at the press conference with the new DPP. It was so obvious that Brantley wanted to have full control over the Integrity Commission, and that is why he went to the Nevis Parliament the other day and disposes the opposition of their constitutional rights and privilege in respect of the appointment of a member, and has usurped it unto himself. Brantley is worse than Russian Putin in the face of democracy, reads that email. And those are the emails tonight. We've had the callers. You can respond to those comments from the emails and from the callers, our third Prime Minister. and in the process make your wrap for tonight's programming. Yes, Prime Minister.
Well, if you give me a little reminder on some of them that remain unanswered, that perhaps would help. The one that I recall was the issue of some ruffling of feathers. That, of course, has its place and its time. And clearly, this the issues are mounting. And it's really getting to that time where we will have to have a lot of protests in the streets of Bastia and everywhere. Where there is an injustice, we will fight for our rights and we will fight against it and we will go as far as is necessary to ensure that justice and democracy prevail in this the land that we love. In terms of partnership with others, we are always open. And my own political career has always been about partnership. That is why, whether I ran as Labour, ran on the Unity banner, or ran as PLP, I always emerge the winner. And that situation will not change because I am someone who empowers and build and reach out and value ideas and value unity. The leadership skills that I've honed over some 30 years did not come easy. And I am satisfied that God has put me for a purpose to serve the people of this country. And I'm committed, so long as it's will and the will of the people, to continue to serve. And I will do what is best for the country, for the people, and of course, I will work with all, as I have done in the past, to ensure that we bring about a change in government as soon as is possible. With respect to the in terms of the difference, I think Carl Brown and another caller would have raised with respect to the IPL. I think this is an important concern. Could we, in the same single space of St. Kitts and Nevis, have two distinctly different demands being made on our citizens because they reside in Nevis, or on the other hand, they are residing on St. Kitts? Should we not have one common integrity in public life bill? I believe that the Integrity in Public Life Act may say that it applies equally to Nevis or some other act of that nature, but we have two distinct bits of legislation, an ordinance in Nevis and of course the Federal Act. And according to my understanding of the comments made by Mr. Keynes, who I think chairs that commission, the need for some reconciling of both pieces of legislation to bring some sense of equity and equality in treatment, in obligation. Clearly, the one in Nevis is of an inferior quality, from my understanding, again, of what Mr. Keynes was saying, and that is something that needs to be looked at. And there may be other areas impacting upon these pieces of legislation that we have to go back to look at and make good, better, and better best in terms of the legislative agenda. I think that may have been all in terms of questions, Patches. Have I left any out?
Well, just one part of the question, which I'm paraphrasing here. The caller asks about the raise a question about the teeth, whether the Integrity in Public Life Commission has the teeth to carry out the job. That's the words he used.
Well, I think at the federal level it does. Again, going back to what the commissioner said in Nevis, the chair of that commission, that one in Nevis seemed to be lacking in very fundamental ways. And again, he's an attorney of long standing. That is his judgment on it. We have seen in recent times that the court has basically also made some ruling regarding certain matters that were brought before it by persons with an interest in whether or not they should be submitting reports to the IPL Commission in Nevis. And I think all these matters are going to have their own discussion and impact in how we make amendments going forward, how we harmonize legislation, and really how do we best achieve the good intentions that were contemplated in the act, but create as less, if you will, chaos and incoherence in the system.
Well,
In closing, sorry.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I was going to say in your rap, we didn't touch it either, right? This large delegation that went to COP28, and if we can, in your rap, say what benefits have been derived from that large delegation, attendance of such a large delegation, even going there. You are the one who signed on to the COP26 or COP21, I think it was, right, in Paris. And then
Yes.
in the process, in your rap as well, there's a comment from the premier across the waters that Nevis would be the road that leads to a sustainable island development. I hope I'm not asking you too much at this time.
No, and I think sometimes the premier says things just for the attention of saying them. And so I tend to prefer to ignore the noise unless there's something substantive, because a lot of noise really, what they say about noise and vessels and so on. And so I don't really want to get distracted, because I believe a lot of times he would say things to distract from the real issues that are confronting people. And these are serious times, though, when people are hurting, when the country is hurting, and the country is requiring of us in opposition that we hold the government accountable. And that is the role, in large measure, that the leader of opposition is constitutionally required to do in our Westminster model. And it is for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to make the assessment whether so far they have been impressed that this role is being effectively pursued, or whether it has become a joke. But that apart, though, those of us who are committed to the country, we have to basically do the work. The caller spoke about ruffling feathers, whatever that means in ordinary English. I think we have an inkling that he's saying that there need to be more action and perhaps more aggression in dealing with some of the challenges that we face. We are committed in the People's Labour Party to work with all right-thinking persons in St. Kitts and Nevis and abroad to rescue our country and to restore it to a path of unity and, of course, prosperity. The agenda of prosperity for all is still a worthy one, and that is one that, of course, we will pursue. When you go around St. Kitts and Nevis and you ask people how they are doing, invariably everyone will say, boy, things are tight. Things are bad. I don't know how I'm doing. You ask the question of them, are you safer now? We know the answer. No, they are not. The homicides, the murders, the robberies are all up, and the government is missing in action. You ask them, Are you content? They say, how could I, when this government has been so wicked? This government has been victimizing people everywhere, denying our contractors work, denying our service providers work, all on account of politics. You ask them, is life any better for you now than it was on the 5th of August? And you hear the answer, no. Life is harder. And this new administration has failed the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. He has exposed himself as the fake and the sham that he is. And so people of number 8, like the people everywhere, must galvanize, must hold hands and hold him accountable, and to ensure that he is a one-term member of parliament and, of course, a one-term leader of this country. There will be a lot of things that they will do, not just around Christmas and Carnival, to distract people from their own pain, because the government has taken on an uncaring nature. So if you are a mother who have suffered the loss of a son, among the 37 or thereabout, that has died since the 5th, there is no sympathy coming from the Prime Minister of the country. And there is no plan, more seriously, to address the alarming, rising surge in homicides in our country. They are out of their depth. And whether it is the Prime Minister or Somali in agriculture, the incompetence of the cabinet has really showed itself up. And all these expensive joints, these circus that they have become. Imagine the smallest country gone off to COP, and they have one of the largest delegation per capita. Nonsense. The agenda already set, the briefing notes were being had, and a parsimonious group, a small group of people, effective and competent, should go out there and make the case for St. Kitts and Nevis with one of the smallest carbon footprint in the world. We don't need 20 persons to go on a joyride, to go on a cruise, to go on tours at public expense while people are here suffering. And it shows the government to be heartless. This has never been what the labor movement had been about. And those who profess to be labor have come to understand that Dr. Joe is no labor. And we have to make amends. It was a big mistake, but we can, of course, correct our mistake, and the time is coming for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to do so. We are committed as a party. I am committed as the leader of the party to help my country and to put all my energies and resources to ensure that we are in a better place at the earliest opportunity. I want to say thank you not only to those who called and emailed tonight, but to the wide cross-section of people across St. Kitts and Nevis who have reached out to me time and time again, encouraging me, giving me a good word of encouragement and support, pledging their contribution in terms of assisting in any way they could to ensure that we have a better government. The People's Labour Party is preparing itself to take the mantle of leadership and to lead all people to a better place. So thank you again, Ian Patches, Libed, for allowing me the opportunity to interact and dialogue with a broad cross-section of people to hear their views. And I say again, your pain, I feel. I feel the pain of the people. My heart bleeds at the terrible suffering that is taking place. And every day I hear them, and every day I weep. But beyond weeping, I pray to God, and I, as it were, get new energy that I cannot allow and be passive in the face of so much suffering. So thanks to all who will be part of a team of patriotic kids working together to bring better days, a better standard of living for the farmers, the fishers, the shopkeepers, those with their bars, those with their saloons, empowering our people. And finally, this nonsense about people going to sustainable development to beg to be able to pay on their lot is really, really ancient. And it shows how out of touch the government is with reality. Now, 2 years after being in power, they have denied the citizens an opportunity to earn a piece, or to own, rather, a piece of the rock in this, the land of their birth. And they are trying to make it a favor for people to get a piece of land. This nonsense has to stop. And if it means a protest march at sustainable development, let's get on with it. This nonsense has to end. And only we, the people, standing up strong for our rights, can ensure that there's a change in course in St. Kitts and Nevis, and this wicked, failing government is removed from office.
Right, Mr.
Thank
Harris.
you very much.
Right, Mr. Harris.
Yes, sir.
I am aware that you're a man who is never out of words, right? But I want you to prove me wrong. And this email I overlooked, and I got it about two times. They sent me 3 times. Very short email, and I anticipate a short answer. It says, Patches, is a bridge to Nevis a reality or what? Someone has to champion this idea because it will bring lots of Nevis vendors to St. Kitts, and that means they will sell more. Say something serious, champion it. Ask Dr. Harris what he thinks. Can you respond to that quickly?
Well, very quickly, the idea of the bridge has been around for a very long time. And clearly, the Team Unity administration had looked at the bridge as something that would be part of its legacy. There was a lot of technical and other works to be done. And at a particular moment in time when we were about to proceed, we were advised that there were certain exigencies, if you will, occurring in Nevis, and it perhaps was not the best time to pursue on that. But there was a general commitment within the cabinet that this bridge was something that ought to be given serious consideration.
Well, that's where we're going to end it. I'll perhaps give you 5 seconds if you want to say something about anything. You're coming up to Christmas. Don't know if we'll see you here again. There's a budget coming up on Wednesday. I'll give you 5 seconds or 10 seconds.
I want to wish everyone all the very best for the Christmas season and say to them to spend wisely what little you have. And despite the dreariness of the moment, and clearly there's a dreary feeling creeping up in St. Kitts and Nevis, people are in despair. I say, remember, at Christmas we are celebrating the birth of the most powerful figure known to mankind. That is the birth of our Savior. So we can look to him and through him for the answers to many of our problems. God bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I am with you, I am for you, and I will continue with the help of God to work in service to the people of my beloved country. Thank you very much again, Sir Patches, for allowing me this extended time.
Thank you, our third Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Harris, for gracing us with your presence and for always being so forthcoming and so factual. And we look forward when we can have this, continue this dialogue in the new year to come. In the meantime, my Straight Talk family, if you joined me late, we had a discussion with our third Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Sylvester Harris, who dealt with the current national issues, and I'm sure that he will need some more, and sometime we will invite him back to the program so we can continue this discussion. But my Straight Dog family, in the process, I just want to thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight. As always, I want to thank you, the many listeners. I want to thank the callers. I want to thank the emailers and all who join us on social media. Remember, you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that reason, I say a big, big thank you. Just recall as well that on Thursday, we'll take a short break, and we come back on Monday and Thursday next week. Our final program will be on Thursday next week, but we take a short break this coming Thursday. Then we come back on Monday and we continue our dialogue. So have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Wherever you are, my Straight Talk family, be good to yourselves and to all whom you meet. And remember, whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve. But first of all, you must believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you to the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye. Until we connect on Monday.
The morning, I thank God for the morning light, giving thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night, for the rest of food and loving care, and for my mother's breath of life that's got me here. So whatever my mind conceives that I will achieve, you better believe, because I do the things I should, be to my brethren kind and good, the best I could. So I'll keep moving on, I won't stop now, I'll keep moving on, till I reach the top somehow, down on my knees. The Lord I kneel and pray, with my heart and soul, beg Him to take me through each day, my guardian to keep